Hello and welcome back to the Turtle Wins the Race Home-Based Business Podcast. My name is Kara Buntin and I've had a home-based business since 1999, so that's what we talk about here. And I had recorded a very interesting conversation with my daughter who is almost 26, and the audio didn't work, so I can't use it, but I do have a transcript that I was able to pull out of that recording. And I want to convey some of her ideas to you guys because I think this is really important that we understand that not everyone is obsessed with e-commerce the way that we are. It's not something that people go around thinking about all the time. I personally am in that world. I think about it. I'm running a business. I think about running a business. I talk about it on here. It's just something that I think about all the time, but not everyone is like that. And when it comes to marketing to people, we need to understand that times they are changing. The times they are changing. Okay, now, probably people who are my age. I'm like in my late 50s, and I don't know wait, I'm 58. Okay, so I have to stop and think about that too. We think of consumerism in one way. All right. Younger people don't. They think of consumerism in a different way. I'm not a big fan of just buying stuff I don't go shopping recreationally. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't. And I think that we need to understand that more people now who are getting older and moving into having their own money to spend, because I don't assume that teenagers have their own money to spend, right? But 20-year-olds might. And as you get into your 30s, you definitely have a little more discretionary income. But the people who are in their 20s are not thinking about buying things the same way that we are, and they have different concerns. Okay. Now, you can say, well, it's not everybody thinks this way, and that's true. And my daughter is the first one to say, I'm not representative of everyone, but the people that she hangs out with have conversations about this and they kind of feel the same way. She does have the disclaimer that she is very outdoorsy and she hangs out with a lot of people who do rock climbing and biking and that kind of stuff. So it is a specific demographic, but I don't think that her opinions are so far off. And I agree with most of them, if not all. I mean, I can see her point on every single one. And a lot of this stuff I 100% agree with. We have the same concerns, maybe for different reasons, about different parts of consumerism in general and merchandising in general and marketing in general. And I just thought she had a really interesting perspective. So I want to hit some of the topics. I did pull out some of the things that she said. And we started this conversation because we were talking about print on demand. I said something about print on demand, and she was like, print on demand. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? Because I do sell some print on demand, and her point, the reason that she reacted that way, we started talking about that in home-based business and small businesses and stuff, and she said print on demand is just kind of it's filling a need that might not even be there, but you put something in front of someone, it just makes more junk. And she used a different word than junk. Okay, and I told her she couldn't swear on this, so just in your mind think of the word it might be. But she said, we started talking about small business versus a larger business. Like, would you prefer to buy from a small home-based business or a box store? And she said, it doesn't matter. And this is a direct quote. I'm not going to buy from a small home-based business just because you're a small home-based business. There is an extreme virtuosity assigned to small businesses on the basis that it's a small local business run by one person who is on the grind. If you're selling the same stuff that I don't want, I'm not going to purchase. I'm not going to indulge in that. That was very interesting. Okay, now I have said before, and I do agree with this, that there is, as she said, an extreme virtuosity assigned to small businesses just because they're small. Okay. Support small business, shop small business Thursday, whatever it is. That's all a marketing thing. It's all marketing. And the thing that I hate that starts circulating around this time of year is that meme, and I've mentioned this before, the meme about, when you buy from a small home-based business, you're sending someone's children to ice skating lessons, you're blah, blah, blah. When you buy from a big box store, you're putting money in the CEO's pocket. And my argument with that is that there are a lot of people who work at that big box store who have children that send them to ice skating lessons with the money that they earn from working at the big box store. So that argument kind of falls flat. Okay. But by trying to make it look like there is an implied virtuosity in the fact that we are small home-based businesses, you tend to overlook the bigger picture. Okay. And the bigger picture is that we're still selling stuff to people. It doesn't matter. And probably, a lot of the people that complain that their sales are down this year don't seem to understand that the stuff that we're selling isn't stuff necessarily that people need. It's stuff that they want. Okay. We're not filling needs. We're filling wants. Unless you're making toilet paper. Okay. That's a need. Food. That's a need. But when I sold wedding cakes, that was a want. That was not a need. You don't need a wedding cake. And I told people that. I've written articles about you don't need a wedding cake. You will end up married at the end of the day, whether there's a cake there or not. Okay, that's a want. Needs and wants are different. And I think that her point, my daughter's point when we were talking about this, is that people have, just on the basis of social media being so pervasive, and just the extreme homogenization, that's one of the things that she's really irritated by. She was really irritated by the homogenization of everything. And I'm going to go through this so that I try to quote her correctly. But the idea that everybody, like, what are you going to sell? Excuse me, what are you going to sell? Oh, I'm going to go see what's selling and make that. Okay, that's not creative. That's just copying. And it's just there to make money. And that is kind of creepy. It feels gross. And her point, this is the point about when you're deciding what to sell, are you filling, this is a quote. Okay, quote, are you filling a deficit or are you introducing a new need in the same way that mega corporations do? And we had been talking about this video that we saw this woman who said, get ready with me before I go to take a walk with my Stanley cup. And she had just one of those tumblers. So first she has a clip-on handle that she puts that on. And then there's a key ring that she attaches to the handle. And then there's a pouch that she puts it in. And then she has to put some snacks in the pouch. And then she does something else. And then there was a holder that had ice cubes that were shaped like the graduated size of the tumbler. And it was a specific ice cube maker to put in the tumbler. So that's a separate thing. And so then she puts the ice cubes in, then she puts the water in, and then she has something else that by the time she was done, she had attached like 30 things to this thing. She probably didn't even go on a walk because every single one of those things was linked in her affiliate links so that you could go buy it. Okay. And she said one of her friends sent that to her because it was so dystopian. And I was like, it kind of is. It is. It's like, if this is what, is this what we've come to? It's ridiculous. But just because her point was that if you have a small business that's making that ice cube maker, is that better or worse just because you're a small business? Okay. It's no different. And let's see, I really don't want to misquote her. I wrote, okay, so it says, my issue with having people saying, oh, by my small business, you're supporting my small business. You still operate on the same level that a mega corporation does, but in a very micro way. Yes, I agree with that. Okay. And then she continued by saying, so you're still deferring to the needs of the shareholder, the people that you rely on to make money. You're not filling a community deficit. Okay, so she's coming from a perspective of, are you just trying to sell me junk I don't need? Or are you actually trying to help me? Basically, like, are you trying to help your community? You're trying to make the world a better place? Are you trying to eliminate things that you don't need? Are you trying to prevent waste? It all was kind of rolled up in this argument. And this conversation went on for like 45 minutes. And it was, I wish that I had a good audio version of it because it was very interesting. Okay. But I'm reading it to you. Okay. Then this is the other piece of it. She says, and it contributes also to the other side of the conversation of, Target has just millions of pounds of unused items that get thrown away as a small business owner. And as a small business, how do you combat that? Because then you're also, if you're selling things that you think that people would want instead of this is something that's intentional and deliberate and custom handmade, I don't know, fills a need, is it accessible? How are you different from that level of commercial-like industry? Because you can be enterprising, but it doesn't need to be on the exact same scale. It's obviously not on the same scale. It's scaled down, but it's in the same format. I guess as a larger corporation, so you're still deferring to people who purchase from you, who have the purchasing power, but also by introducing new needs that people didn't know they want. Okay, so this again goes back to the want or need thing. If I wanted to put ice cubes in a tumbler, I could just go get some ice cubes that I have in the fridge from an ice cube maker that I already have. Or do I need to go and buy a piece of plastic that's going to create this special shaped ice cube? Okay, I personally don't see the point in that. Apparently people buy that and people promote it and people say, oh, I need that. But do they? Right? Do they? And so this is the question. Should we feel, basically, should we feel good about that? And this is a philosophical, and, we were talking, I said, this is a very philosophical conversation. And you're going to get people who say, well, if people want to buy that, then that's fine. Let them spend their money. And she agreed. She said, that's fine. You can spend your money. But don't tell yourself that you're better because you're a small business just because you are a small business. Okay. And I brought up the point that every person oh my God. I don't want to skip anything in here. I'm looking at this transcript. I think that I said, you have to understand that small businesses want to make money. That's the purpose of having a business, is to make a profit, right? And she said, yes, I understand that. I agree. And she said, this is her purchasing she's a purchasing person in the community. She is a customer of who though? And see, this is the thing. You have to understand that not when you're looking at people, you're not looking at a template of one person being the person that you're selling to. And this really, it gets very complicated, doesn't it? But basically she's saying that she and her friends don't think of small business as better because we're still selling things to people. Okay. So you don't immediately get that halo effect just because we're a small business, because if you're selling things and you're marketing things to people, then we're still marketing things to people, and they're equating that with a big corporation that markets things to people. And it's true. Okay. We're all doing the same thing. We're just doing it on a much smaller level. Now, how do you combat that? Okay. So I'm not sure that I'm sure that you have to combat it, but I think that we need to understand that not everybody is, and times, like I said, times are changing. People might have been just, and I'm sure some people still are, they just like going shopping for fun. I've never enjoyed going shopping for fun. And I will say that my daughter definitely does not. She's never been a shopper, just recreational shopping. It's not a thing for her. And maybe your customers are a recreational shopper. That's a different issue. But I think that more people are becoming people who are not recreational shoppers. And we need to be aware of that. Okay, we need to be aware that instead of just going out and copying the thing that's out there already, maybe you need to be a little more inventive. And maybe you can actually do something that's a little less perfect and a little more handcrafted and not machine made, because that really has lost its shine for a lot of people. And she did make the comment that when she goes to Etsy, it's only to look for vintage items because she likes that. And she says, if I'm shopping for a friend, I can't find it at an antique store or something, I will go to Etsy to look for unique antique items that are a little quirky or a little weird. And she said that she looks for pictures that are not perfect. She looks for pictures that are a little darker. And then it's not someone who is like a corporate mentality, but it's maybe I think the phrase she uses it's an old lady who's selling her stuff. Okay. I'm fine with that. But it's the idea that the perfection is shoved down people's throats in such a way that it's basically made everything look the same. And I was talking about the front page of Etsy, where you go to Etsy and everything looks the same. It's all got the look. It's got, people copy each other so it all looks the same. It's the color palette. And she said, yeah, you can. And she said, local business is no better than larger businesses that's owned somewhere else, because we all play into the same marketing rules. Okay. And she said, you can go to any local business. And she said, I could guarantee you that there are going to be 3 colors that I see in every single one of those local businesses, because everything is homogenized. Okay. Now, in the live that I did, I'm recording this on Tuesday of the week that this is going up. And I just did a live on YouTube about, it was just the weekly Q&A, but there was a question in there about vintage, because one of the people in the comments said that her sales had increased a lot recently. And I'm thinking that's one of the things that was mentioned specifically by my daughter, who said that people are kind of looking for things that are not factory perfect. And again, this is her friends group, right? She says, I realize that I am not representative of everyone, but I think that people want craftsmanship. There's a whole group of people that want the craftsmanship first. And what I said during this conversation, because we were talking about the POD to start this with, I said, my problem with print on demand is that people get into selling things not because they're making it already and they want to sell it, but they say, I want to sell something on Etsy. What should I sell? So they're starting out with the thought, I want to make money. They're not starting out with the thought, I want to have craftsmanship, right? Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. So what you get when people start out with the, I want to make money, and then what should I sell? That's when you get the copying. That's when you get people saying, this color is selling, do that. That's when you get people who say, this design is selling, do that. And that's when everything looks the same. Okay. When you start out with craftsmanship and you start out with creativity, then things look different because you're coming from different neurology. It's not the same. It's not somebody saying, I want to sell what's selling, so I'm just going to sell more of that. And I think that based on what she was saying, I think that people have woken up to the fact, and I agree with this 100%, that when you run a small business, you're running a business and you're selling things to people regardless of, whether you think Etsy is greedy because they're trying to make money. And that was something that I was saying, yeah, when people call Etsy greedy, I'm like, don't you want to make money? That's ridiculous. Etsy is trying to make money because it's a business. We are running businesses. We should be trying to make money. That should be what you want to do if you're trying to make a profit, right? If you're running a business, you should be trying to make a profit. That's all Etsy's doing. They're not being greedy, okay? And I think that the idea that small business has a halo, y'all just take that halo off. You need to understand that that's not the perception of people. And it's not necessarily, it doesn't give us protection from the idea that people don't want to be marketed to and they don't want something that looks the same. And we did at the end of this, let me find how she wrapped it up. She said something that I was like, that's a really good stopping point, because we could have gone on for hours with this conversation, because it was very philosophical and kind of meandering. But she said at the very end, oh yeah, okay. She did give me the wrap up. I'll read. This is her telling y'all what to do. Give this video a thumbs up so the corporate taskmasters will now sound off. They don't sound off in the comments. Like and subscribe. There's a link in my bio. Sound off in the comments if you like this. Remember to hit that notification bell. This is just the social script. That's what she said. Okay. And I thought that was pretty funny. But she did kind of say, let's say, okay, this is how she wrapped this up. What I'm saying is, what's your responsibility as a business owner? What role do you want to play? Who do you want to sell to? Do you feel good about what you're selling, or are you just making money? Because that's the same mindset as a very corporate entity that you're trying to go against. So you're just kind of in a Mobius strip of just selling stuff, and who cares? All right. I just thought it was an interesting conversation. I thought it was an interesting perspective. And I think that every now and then we need to understand that we can't claim that we're virtuous because we're small businesses. We're businesses, okay? And if you feel scolded, I'm sorry. I also take the scolding. I'm a small business and I'm trying to make a profit, you know. But I do think that as this generation who's in their 20s now gets older, we need to be more aware of the fact that it's not just super consumer culture everywhere. There is a whole bunch of people who prefer something that is not perfect and that's made with, craftsmanship, and they don't want the junk. They don't need more junk. So don't make junk. How's that? Don't make junk. Put some care into it. All right, that's all. And you still shouldn't say made with love. I was going to talk about the made with love thing because I had some comments about that. I'll talk about that next week. Okay. Bye.